Oh baby, I need Babeka. My God be my provider. He be my protector. So far they go higher. Yo baby, I need Babeka. My God be my provider. He be my protector. So far they go higher. Oh yeah. Me nyawo biampo boni. I don't do them anything. People say me another day. If you wish me well, I wish you well. Me nyawo biampo boni. I don't do them anything. People say me another day. If you wish me well, I wish you well. Eva, Eva, I still dey fight for the paper. Of me now, no be later. No be later. Eva, Eva, I still dey fight for the paper. Of me now, no be later. Yeah. Nana nyami kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama. Nana nyami be kebi mama, kebi mama. Nana nyami kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama. Nana nyami be kebi mama. Yeah. Me nyawo biampo boni. I don't do them anything. People say me another day. If you wish me well, I wish you well. Me nyawo biampo boni. I don't do them anything. People say me another day. If you wish me well, I wish you well.
You munyai. Buti make it come and hot some see by record with a stolen mic. Ubi see my phone coming here see na two men pie. Ubi banya moshe na mu destroy the soul inside. My baby I'm on a monkai.
Shame on you, I pray my God go favor you. What we they do be deja vu. Omunya yanke fie jedu. Shame on you, I pray my God go favor you. What we they do be deja vu. Omunya yanke fie jedu. Nana nyami kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama. Nana nyami be kebi mama, kebi mama. Nana nyami kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama, kebi mama. Nana nyami be kebi mama. Yeah. Me nyawo biampo boni. I don't do them anything. People say me another day. If you wish me well, I wish you well. Me nyawo biampo boni. I don't do them anything. People say me another day. If you wish me well, I wish you well. Eva, Eva, I still dey fight for the paper. Of me now, no be later. No be later. Eva, Eva, I still dey fight for the paper. Of me now, no be later. Yeah. Rockstar. Hey, yeah. They call me Eugene.
Welcome to the fourth branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. I am MD, host of the fourth branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Stay with us. We will be right back. Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Welcome. Today we continue the conversation about the road to 2020, a race that's heating up and more candidates are joining the crowd. We take a look at why there is still a record deficit of leadership in the Republican Party. Is it time that we, the people, step in to fix the problem our country is facing? That and much more as we continue. There is no lack of, politics. At least that's what we call what's going on in the country. Democrats versus Republicans. That sounds like politics. A few weeks ago, actually it could be a couple of months ago, I took the time to explain the difference between politics and deception. Now, most politicians, even those who are true to their calling, meaning they they ran for public office because they saw a need in the country and they had the urge to do something about it. That's the way it's thought for most. I would say 95% of individuals who go for public office, who become public servants, is because they saw a need. They have an urge to fix a problem that they seen either hasn't been addressed, has not been addressed properly, or simply ignored completely by, well, for lack of a better term, politicians. But here at the Fourth Branch, we try to not only differentiate between politician and scoundrel, in other words, people who are simply in it for themselves and who use any tool necessary to keep that job, including misinforming, deceiving the constituent. And we have been showing you that for the past 100 years, yes, you heard correctly, for the past 100 years, the Republican Party in particular has been deceiving the constituent. Of course, they frame it as politics. I can give you a couple of examples, although this is not the topic we're here to discuss today. The difference between politics and deception, it's not a blurred line. It's the contrast can be seen, and there is a huge contrast. Politics, a good example of politics, for instance, is what Mitch McConnell did when Obama was president. In his last year in office, he tried to appoint a judge on the Supreme Court, and Mitch McConnell ran the clock and did not let that happen. Now, politics is not something for the faint of heart. It's not something that's pleasant, and nobody would ever like it. But nevertheless, you should be able, if you are able to differentiate between politics and deception, you would find out that the country, when we talk about the big divide in the country, there is not really a big divide among the constituents. The big problem that we have in the country is the fact that there is a party, the Republican Party, the constituent in particular that I'm referring to. Most of those individuals, they are either naive, ignorant, gullible, and they trust their leaders to do the right thing, to tell them, to pass them the correct information, and they dig in their position no matter what from that point forward. Now, on the Democrat side, yes, you have individuals who are also fanatics, but you would find in the Democrat side, more often than not, more likely than not, that there are divergent of opinion. As you can see, even as of date, you see that Nancy Pelosi is having a hell of a time with different groups that have different opinion about what ought to be done, what needs to be done. That's the Democrat Party. Republican Party, uniform. Whatever the leaders tell them, they buy, they go along with it, they in sync. And that's why Republican legislators are able to manipulate their constituent, to lie to them, to deceive them, and yet they can still rest assured they're not going to lose their job because, as I just mentioned, Republican constituents are gullible, naive, ignorant, and I would even say blind. But we'll get there to that in a moment. As I was saying, Mitch McConnell played politics by running out the clock on an appointment that the Obama administration was trying to place on the Supreme Court. Now, again, it's not something necessarily that the other side, the Democrat side, would like. That's understandable, that's understood. Similarly, that was politics, by the way. What Mitch McConnell did was politics. Yes, again, it's not fun. That doesn't mean you would like it. That doesn't mean it's okay, but that's politics. He took advantage of an opportunity that he had and he acted on it. By the same token, you may recall that it's a few months ago, the State of the Union address was to be delivered by Donald Trump. And at the same time, or during that time rather, there was a shutdown caused by none other than Donald Trump. So what Nancy Pelosi did, she used that opportunity to deny the delivery of the State of the Union address to Donald Trump by saying that, we're not going to be able to take care of that, of all the detail, including ensuring your security, because there is a shutdown. That is politics. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like it. That doesn't mean people on the Republican side liked it, but the bottom line, that was politics. That's example of politics. But when you have legislators lying to you about either legislations or policies that you are going to have to make a decision on, to vote, to cast a vote, to provide your support, but you're doing it based on lies, on deception, that's not politics. For instance, which I provided before and I'll provide it again. For instance, when the Republican on February of 2017 came to you, to the nation, and say they're going to pass a tax cut for the people, that was deception, not politics. Deception, not just, in fact, they compounded the deception. First, they say it was a tax cut for the people. Now, I already showed you that $1.3 trillion of that money did not go to the people. So that's not a tax cut for the people, which means the major portion of the money went to large corporations, to wealthy individuals. That's deception. Second, they did not say anything about the fact that you have to return that money. That's deception, because the money was borrowed. That's not the money the country has. The money was borrowed, which means when you borrow money, you have to pay it back. And when you're paying back money that you borrowed, you have to pay it back with interest. And what makes it even worse is the fact that at the time the money was borrowed, there was no reason for that. The economy was doing well. Corporation was reporting record revenues and record profit, which means there was absolutely no reason whatsoever to have done that, to have borrowed money and to put us, the taxpayers, in a position to have to return money with interest. That's number two. Number three, while they were out there saying it's a tax cut for the people, they were crafting legislation that clearly say not only most of the money will not go to the people, but they also were crafting legislation that says the people, we, the taxpayer, will be responsible to pay back the whole money that was borrowed. Yes, you heard correctly. They borrowed $1.5 trillion. They simply distribute to us $200 billion. They give the majority to large corporation, but we, the taxpayer, get a bill for $1.5 trillion. Those are deception. That's not politics. I gave that to you as an example so that you can understand the difference between politics and deception. Now, another example during the Obama administration was when Republican legislature leaders all over the place were telling you that Obamacare was a death panel. They protest, they get you to protest so that they could kill the legislation, the policies, not based on politics, but based on deception, because they knew what they were telling you was not true, but they forced that information on you to make decision based on deception. So that's what I mean when I say deception. I'm not just talking in general, I'm not just talking gibberish, I'm not just talking like a quote-unquote damn liberal, because I'm not. That's number one. And number two, those information are readily available for verification. So we know that our country is in serious trouble. Now, when during the whole presidency of Donald Trump, clouded by investigation into Russia meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Now, I always mention here, that's why we say that the fourth branch is a place for common sense, because we, the human species, are doted with a brain, logic. If we are not able to utilize that ability, we are no better than any other animal, because as you can see that we have this ability to think, to rationalize, to make deduction, to draw conclusion. And the minute that we outsource that ability, the minute we let somebody else tell us what we should think, automatically we are at the animal level, inferior animal. Because the only thing that differentiates us, the human species, from other species, other animal species, is the ability that we have to use our brain and to draw conclusion. Now, I say all that obviously for a reason. Now, no matter how much of a fanatic you are, if you have a brain and if you're able to use that brain, it should not be difficult at all, especially for individuals who have been around long enough. You don't even have to have gone to college. You don't have to be a genius for you to know during the whole time that the investigation was being done, that the Donald Trump administration has worked aggressively to impede, to derail, to slow down, or to even completely stop the investigation. If a police officer or a detective knock on your door and say, we want to look inside your place because we suspect you have drugs, weapons, there is some illegal activities going on. Now, granted, here in the United States, in order for the government, the law enforcement, to search your place, they have to have a warrant. Now, let's assume in this conversation that the detective has a warrant to search your place. Now, to simplify the whole matter, whether he does or not would be totally irrelevant for me, assuming that I don't want to play hardball with the law enforcement. I'll just open my door and say, go ahead, I can actually leave the place and go in about my business without having to worry, assuming they're not going to plant drugs on the place. Of course, that's another story. I can literally leave my place, let as many officers in the place search the place upside down, search the place, turn this place upside down. And the reason is because no matter how long they search, no matter how deep they search, there is nothing for them to find. But on the other hand, that's what a logical brain, the ability that a logical brain provides anyone to be able to really draw conclusion. On the other hand, someone who has a problem, either has drugs, has illegal weapon, or is conducting some illegal activities in his or her place, would object at every way he or she can to prevent law enforcement from coming into his place or her place. Now, even with a search warrant in hand, you would see that the individual, even having no choice, would try to get the officer, the detective, or whoever came with the detective to do as little search as possible and get the hell out of there, because there is something to find. That's logic. Now, I said all that is because it should not be that difficult for anyone with a logical mind to understand the very reason that Donald Trump and company were doing everything possible, and he was using the power of the Oval Office to impede the investigation, to slow down the investigation, and to try to derail it altogether, is because if you were following the logic, there is something to find. Because in example 1, I can let an army of police officers in my apartment without any fear there is anything to find. But the individual who has something to hide and knows that it would just be a matter of time before law enforcement finds whatever is illegal, whether it's drug, weapon, or whatever illegal activities happening in the apartment. So no matter how much of a supporter of Donald Trump you are, if you have a logical brain, it cannot be that difficult to figure out that the guy is dirty. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have to go to college to figure that much out, because that's the whole point of the ability our brain gives us as a human being. And if you're not able to come to that conclusion, I can tell you without any fear that you are no better than any other animal, because the logical ability to conclude is the only thing that differentiates us human from the other animal species. That's it. Everything that we do, we feel as a living organism. We can feel pain, so can they. We can bleed, so can they. We can die, so can they. We need to eat to survive. Likewise, for the other animal, we need to drink. There is absolutely nothing different between us in the human species and the other animal species, except for a brain that can, if working, that is, that can draw conclusion And that tells us, yes, there is something bad here. Now, if you want to, that's when the gullibility, the naiveness, and the ignorance come, because if you outsource your brain and have to listen to other people who actually have a reason to deceive you because it helped them to keep their job, it helped them to make money, in the case of Fox, for instance, because as long as Fox's audience stays ignorant, it's good for Fox because that's how they make money. Because if they don't have a naive, a gullible, and ignorant audience, then advertisers would just walk away from Fox. And they will stop being this top broadcasting network. So they rely on the fact that the audience stays dumb, gullible, and unable to use their brain. That's how Fox network makes money. That's why networks are to educate people, how to tell you when there is nothing wrong being Democrat or Republican. And I'm not here to try to convert you into one or the other. I'm just making the point that when you make your decision that is based on deception, on false information, then you're making the wrong decision. It's not a belief. It's not because you're a Republican or because you're a Democrat. When you make decision that is based on false information, on deception, you're making wrong decision. If the pilot that's piloting your plane, if that pilot makes decision based on false information provided by the tool control, I can guarantee you your life is over. That's the way it is for our society here. That's the way it is for our life right here in the United States of America. We've been making decisions based on false information, on deception, not on the fact that you are a Republican. Because fine, you are a Republican, fine, you are a Democrat. It doesn't matter. But are you making decision that's based on accurate information? Now, if you hear whatever information you hear from Donald Trump, you already know there is no argument there that whatever you're hearing from Donald Trump is a lie. So if your decision to support him is based on what he says, then yes, you're making the wrong decision. And as I just mentioned, your life is not any different than any other animal species, because you are not making decision based on rationale, on logic. You're making the decision based on outsourcing your brain to somebody else who actually has a reason for you not to be informed. Because it benefits them. Why do you think the Republican Party has enjoyed support from their constituent despite the fact they haven't done anything for them? They've been lying to them, deceiving them. In fact, they've been doing all the wrong things for the country, for the constituent, and yet they always get back into the post because the constituent vote them back in office based on deception. And as far as Republican legislators, they happy you are that way. They elated that you stay dumb, you stay ignorant, you're gullible, you're naive, because it benefits them, and that's the reason they do it. In reality, a leader is supposed to lead. A leader is supposed to take his or her followers from the darkness and guide them into light. But instead, what Republican leaders have been doing to their constituent is actually get them to stay in the darkness. because it benefits them. If you become knowledgeable, I'll give you a good example. During the whole Obama administration, the Republican legislators have campaigned on Obamacare being bad, killing grandma, killing jobs, and a bunch of other lies and deception. Now, a lie is something that someone says deliberately that they know is not true. So when they say Obamacare was a death panel, that was deception, not politics, because they knew what they were saying was not true. They're legislators. They have the piece of legislation in their hand. They can clearly see what the legislation was about, but they lied to the constituent. They say it was going to kill jobs. They also lied to you about that for two reasons. One, they have the legislation in their hand, which they could see clearly that's not the case, but they also had the Congressional Budget Office. The Congressional Budget Office is a neutral organization that provides information, financial, economic information, budgeting, projection about anything that our government does, Democrat or Republican, whether it's an administration that's Democrat or an administration that's Republican. The Congressional Budget Office job is to crunch numbers and project what that task is going to do to our economy, to our financial situation, the financial situation of the country. The Congressional Budget Office did not say any such thing. But Republican legislators were out there campaigning on that very fact. Now, for 6 years, they campaigned on that, and you elected them again and again and again in office. And then suddenly, Republican constituents start saying that all those things that the Republican legislature were telling them were lies. And that's the reason today you've seen a lot of Republicans start signing up for Obamacare. You see, your decision for 6 years were postponed, not done, because your Republican legislature lied to you. That wasn't politics, that was deception. Now, if they were playing politics, they could have done something better. They could have offered a version of a healthcare themselves. They're saying, you see Obamacare? Here's what we have. Ours is better. Here's why. A, B, C, D, E, F. That's why ours is better. No, that's not what they did. They lied to you so that you can make decisions based on those deceptions. So when I say that Republicans are naive, gullible, ignorant, it's not a damn liberal talking. We have plenty of proof of such. And next month we're coming with a program where we're going to show you, we're going to go back as far as 100 years to show you that for 100 years at least, we didn't go any further back, but for 100 years at least, the Republican Party legislature, so it's not just today that you're seeing what you're seeing in the Republican Party. For 100 years, they have worked systematically to deceive their constituent. And it worked. It worked. Now, when it comes to the Mueller's investigation, the report is out, and as you could see, William Barr, an attorney general that's supposed to do what he does for the country, not for Donald Trump. William Barr is an attorney general for the country, not for Donald Trump. And yet, what did he do? It took a report that provides information about the outcome of the investigation, and he put his own spin in it so that the report could look favorable to Donald Trump. And he did that not once, not twice, but 3 times. First, with a 4-page letter report that he put out, spinning the outcome of the investigation. Because Republicans have always relied on the fact that Republican constituents are gullible, naive, and ignorant. Yes, you heard correctly, and the only reason they keep doing those things is because they have, for at least a century, rely on that very fact that the Republican constituents are naive, gullible, and ignorant, because they know anything that they tell them, they already outsource their brain. So they're not gonna try to find out what is the real truth. They just take it and run with it. And you see, it's not Donald Trump alone, it's not William Barr, it's the whole Republican machine. Go on Twitter and you find all the Republicans are speaking one language, which is very different from what the Mueller report says. Why do they do that? For the simple reason that they rely on that simple fact. The Republican constituents are gullible, naive, ignorant, and they have completely outsourced their brain. Fox benefits of it greatly. They become one of the most successful broadcast network in the nation. In fact, for more than a decade, that's what it has been. And it's not because Fox is doing such a great job. Everybody knows that. Fox has been lying to everyone on a regular basis, just like the Republican Party has been doing. Why do you think all the Republican legislators, when they want to make a point and not be challenged, where do they go? On Fox. So they want the Republican constituent to stay ignorant, to stay gullible, to stay naive. Because what do you know? It benefits them. And that is a major problem, a crisis, I would say, for the United States of America. In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies presented to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore. Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuses. Adolf Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our only business, is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and every administration accountable. Today, it is urgent. It is necessary. It is critical. Our very freedom depends on it. Every day for the past 2 weeks, we have been featuring a candidate vying for the presidency of the United States. Obviously, the state of affairs here in this country make it such that the 2020 presidential election become really an important event for the nation. And the reason for that is because, well, it cannot be another presidential election. The past 2 years has taught us that we cannot just go through the motion of just voting. You vote for your party and that should do it. John F. Kennedy said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Now, most people, especially those who do not live in major cities, seems to be completely detached from what you would call reality. Now, I'm sorry to say that, but it is true that there is a separate environment created for those who supported and voted for Donald Trump. And that environment was not created by Donald Trump. It was amplified by Donald Trump. I mentioned several times here in this program that contrary to what you've been hearing elsewhere, that the Republican Party has become a Donald Trump party because all the Republicans in Washington, whether they are congressmen or senators, tried both publicly and privately to provide as much support as possible for Donald Trump. And that is despite the fact there is so much evidence of wrongdoing by Donald Trump. But most importantly, Mr. Trump has diminished the importance of the presidency. And the bar that is set by the Republicans, both legislators and constituents alike, has been set so low that one must ask the question, is it even worth seeking the office of the presidency? Now, Donald Trump did not do that to the Republican Party. I said it before, I'll say it again. Donald Trump has helped to expose what the Republicans are. That's what they've always been. They simply needed an individual such as Donald Trump to show their true colors, to show that although they've been saying they're patriot, although they've been claiming they are Christians, Donald Trump helped us to find out that it's only in words. They claim to be fiscally conservative. Donald Trump helped us to expose the fact that it's only in words. And the list goes on and on. So as such, the 2020 presidential election cannot just be another presidential election. It needs to be an election in which we, the people, we, the members of this society, we who have an actual working brains, go to the poll and get rid of this problem we currently have in the Oval Office. And no, it's not because Donald Trump is a Republican, but because Donald Trump does not honor the office of the presidency. Donald Trump does not abide by the Constitution. Donald Trump does not go according to the rule of law. And that's what makes the United States an envy of the world. Not because it's Republican or Democrat, but because the individual who occupies the Oval Office lives a life of decency. At least tries to. Donald Trump doesn't even pretend. As such, we have been presenting you candidates in the Democrat Party which vies for the nomination, to clinch the Democrat nomination in order to take on Donald Trump and become the 46th president. Today, we will introduce you to Beto O'Rourke. Now, Beto O'Rourke became a national sensation not too long ago. And the reason is because he came very close to kick Ted Cruz out of his post of senator from Texas. Yes, it was unbelievable. It was almost a dream for the Democrats, a nightmare obviously for the Republicans, to see that in Texas, one of the reddest states in the nation, came very close to vote a Democrat as senator. And Ted Cruz was so scared of the outcome that he swallowed his pride and he swallowed his lack of decency to ask Donald Trump to help him out. Yes, you remember that Donald Trump accused Ted Cruz's father of being behind JFK assassination? You remember how much Donald Trump vilified Ted Cruz's wife, humiliated her? You remember that? Well, because Republicans in general could not care less about any of that, not decency, not Christianity, not fiscally conservatism, not anything that they've been talking they have, but they just want to stay in the position that they have no matter what. If they have to sleep with the devil, they will sleep with the devil, because all that matters to them is to stay in their position. As such, we know, we've been talking about that, we've been writing about that, we know that Republicans stand for absolutely nothing. But unfortunately, so are their constituents. So they can enjoy the position that they have without any fear. That's why we can see Donald Trump approval rating has been the same that get him in office, and even all the things that have happened that clearly show the guy is a scoundrel, is a crook. He even collaborated with a foreign enemy to get him in office, and yet nothing has changed. Yes, we know that both the Republican legislators and the Republican constituent, they couldn't care less about the United States of America. The idea they're patriot is in words, but they cannot act as patriot. They will not act as patriot. They say they're Christian. That sounds good, except that all their actions, their words, are simply non-Christian. So as such, we will talk just a tad about Beto O'Rourke as an alternative to Donald Trump in the 2020 presidential election.
After reading several books based on presidents and on Obama specifically, I found that they're typically partisan. The Obama legacy targets the heart of the issue by giving credit to the president where it's due, but definitely coming down hard on Obama on his bigger failures, like his handling of the Syrian crisis.
If you are in college, going to college, you are an educator, a faculty member, or someone with interest in government or politics, The Obama Legacy is definitely a book to read.
My professor recommended The Obama Legacy.
A friend actually recommended The Obama Legacy.
I would highly recommend this book for anyone, whether for academic use or leisure reading.
I would recommend this book to anyone out there searching for an impartial and unbiased look into Barack Obama's tenure as president.
I would definitely recommend this book as a good read for both liberals and conservatives.
Who is Beto O'Rourke? As I started saying earlier, Beto has climbed to the national stage after giving Ted Cruz almost a heart attack. In the heart of Texas, Beto mounted a campaign. He visited most of the counties in Texas. And Texas is a huge place. It is a large state. But Beto wanted to turn the table. And because in the beginning of the process, it was looked at as an impossible task, insurmountable task for any Democrat. But Beto did not pay any attention to anyone, and he ran his campaign. He visited many different counties in the state of Texas. But in the end, the outcome, he did not unseat Ted Cruz. Before Beto did what he did, he was a representative out of the state of Texas. He represented the 16th district of Texas. And that particular post he held started in 2013 and ended in 2019. And that possibly the 2019 end, possibly because Mr. O'Rourke did not campaign to get reelected as a U.S. representative, but rather as a senator. So he lost both. Well, he lost one, but he gave up the other. Now, before Beto was a U.S. representative, he was mayor. Well, not quite, but he was considered a mayor pro tempore of El Paso from June 2005 to June 2006. Between 2005 and 2011, he was also a member of the El Paso City Council from the 8th District. Beto was born Robert Francis O'Rourke in September of 1972 in El Paso, Texas. He's pretty tall, 6 foot 4 inches. He's been married since 2005 to Amy Hoover Sanders. Together they have 3 children. Beto went to Columbia University where he got a bachelor's degree. Now, that is pretty unique in a sense, especially among his colleagues. Those the others are bidding for the Democrat nomination, because most of the others not only have a bachelor's degree, but they also have a Juris Doctor. Beto happened to be not one of those individuals. Now, I said earlier that Mr. O'Rourke did decline to seek re-election for the U.S. House of Representatives, but that actually didn't happen in 2019. It happened in 2018. Of course, his term would have ended in January of 2019. After losing after not succeeding to unseat Ted Cruz, Mr. O'Rourke took a break from politics, and according to report, he was going on a tour around the country at first, which was judged to be kind of weird, to say the least. So we don't know whether he was trying to figure out whether he should run or not. Whatever the case was, he did come to that decision in March of 2019, March 14 to be exact. Now there are a few issues that are not necessarily good, but that happened a long time ago, but that can come back to haunt O'Rourke. When he was a teenager, he was a member of the computer hacker group cult of the Dead Cow, a name for hacking group. Now that group was very notorious rather, for providing tools which allow ordinary people to hack computers as long as those computers run Microsoft Windows. Now, what can BETO offer you? What would be a reason for you to vote to support BETO? What does he have in store for you? Now, during the time he was challenging Ted Cruz, the Democrat Party was on fire because they thought that they have found their savior, the one that may be able to take on Donald Trump, because he's a no-nonsense guy, very charismatic. In fact, BETO, during the time that he was campaigning, he was standing on table to talk to people. Sometimes you see large crowd of people around him and he's on top of a table, just like those dancers, strippers, but he wasn't doing any such thing. I guess that is signature. Mr. O'Rourke supports the universal health care, but he has not so far mentioned anything about Medicare for all, which is what Bernie Sanders is been promoting on the campaign trail. He also said that he supports the concept of the Green New Deal. He has opposed the GOP tax cut, but he would favor a $10 tax on every barrel of oil. Mr. O'Rourke has also called for universal background check in order to get a handle on the gun tragedies that have been plaguing the country. And he opposed the idea of state recognizing the concealed weapon, concealed carry permit idea. And on immigration, needless to tell you, Mr. O'Rourke is very much against the idea of criminalizing people who seek asylum here in the United States. And he is a vocal critic of the border wall idea. And he did make a proposition which I think is an idea to consider. Instead of appointing Supreme Court the way that it is today, his idea is to have, instead of 9 Supreme Court justices, to have 10. And it would be 5 should be appointed by Democrat and 5 by Republican. This way, it doesn't matter who is in the Oval Office. If there are already 5 justices that were appointed by a Republican administration, then that's set, that's over. So now it would be Democrats' turn. That's an idea to consider. He is also for the idea of college-free tuition, so that when people graduate, they do not walk away with a huge pile of bills. He supports the $15 per hour minimum wage. And he's also for the idea of decriminalizing marijuana, the use of marijuana, and to expunge all criminal records of people who have been placed in jail because of that. And another novel idea is Mr. O'Rourke would require, and listen to that, that's novel because it's not currently done, it's never been done, would require his cabinet to hold monthly town hall meeting. That's an idea where cabinet member of a president would be exposed to the public and discuss what the president is doing or not doing. That's fantastic idea. Now, that's a lot of ideas, right? A lot of ideas, but which one of those ideas would Mr. O'Rourke be able to use to galvanize, to excite people to support, to vote for him? In order to find that out, let's take a look at Mr. O'Rourke's experience in politics. He's been in politics for 14 years. But he seems to be more in the mindset of getting campaign finance from individual instead of from super PAC, despite the fact that in his bid to unseat Ted Cruz, he did take some super PAC money. Well, actually, no, he did take money previously from super PAC in previous election, but during his bid to unseat Ted Cruz, he was funded almost exclusively by individuals, single donation here and there. Now, Mr. O'Rourke, big idea is this, is to reduce inequality, although he hasn't provided any type of specific yet. He wants a stronger antitrust regulation to break up monopolies, and would encourage companies to invest profits in their employees and communities. Now, those are interesting ideas, big ideas. Now, whether those ideas can translate into rallying theme to excite people to support BETO or not, we don't know yet. As we've been doing, we simply looking at the big ideas each candidate proposed, and we follow the candidate to find out how they communicating that idea, that big idea, or those big ideas to individual, to the supporters, to the followers. As we continue talking about those different candidates, we also will continue to take a look at how their ideas, whether those ideas are exciting ideas to use in the campaign trail in order to get support. Now, fighting inequality, although he hasn't provided any kind of specific, while that could be used depending on how he frames the conversation, could be used and could be rallying theme, especially for people in the minority group. But here at the Fourth Branch, we still haven't been able to visualize the rallying theme behind the inequality issue. So we'll be watching BETO pretty closely to find out how he's going to translate those ideas. He has some great ideas. How he's going to translate those ideas into exciting rallying theme in order to win, to clinch the Democrat nomination. You are on the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuse. Adolf Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our only business, is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and